So we know that in our previous video we talked about the philosophy of science, the philosophy of research, or we talked about what a research paradigm is. Essentially, हमने ये देखा कि it comprises of ontology, which is about reality, कि reality क्या है. It also is about epistemology, which is what is the nature of knowledge, and how we can how many ways are there of knowing it. Or it's also about methodology, कि how can we go and find out about that knowledge. So ontologies, the reality isn't one, there are many realities. Epistemology, that is way of knowing, or the nature of knowledge, that also varies, and there's multiplicity in it. Similarly, methodology be how we go and acquire that knowledge, that is also not one, but there are multiple ways multiple principles or procedures that can allow us to know that knowledge. So फिर method क्या हो गया? We talked about this is what is not seen of the iceberg, of a research iceberg, and what is seen as this method, which is the tip of it. The method क्या है? Method are the tools that are given so that we can use them and collect the data and do our research. So normally we also establish that whenever we come across a research paper or publication, तो हमें tip of the iceberg नजर आती है पीछे. ये जो research philosophy है, we don't get to see it. So let's talk about different research paradigms कौन से exist करते हैं, what philosophies मोटी कौन सी हैं. So we have four main paradigms: positivist paradigm, interpretive paradigm, critical paradigm, and pragmatic paradigm. So let's have a look at what is the philosophy of each of these paradigms. That means we'll be looking at reality, ये वाला paradigm, ये वाली philosophy, how does it take a particular, what way it sees the reality is, what way it sees the way of knowing is, and what way it sees वो कौन से procedures हैं जो agreed upon है between scientists who use this paradigm or a particular paradigm. So let's start with the positivist paradigm. Positive paradigm में जो philosophy है, that revolves around this concept कि जो human reasoning है वो supreme है. And the ontological position that people in this positivist paradigm take, it is that एक single reality exists करती है, and that single reality, and it can be discovered by science. आप discover करो या मैं discover करूँ, it's going to be a single reality nevertheless. And that is why no matter where this paradigm is being used, whether it is in natural sciences or in social sciences, the logic of inquiry है, that is the same. ठीक है? For example, अगर reality, a social scientist, if for him or her, if he is taking his research in a positivistic paradigm, so for him reality एक ही होगी. And the proponents of positivistic paradigm will take on it isn't the same even in social sciences के you consider a reality to be different and I consider a reality to be different. So the logic, the way you will inquire it, the logic used behind knowing that reality is going to be the same, irrespective के disciplines कौन से. Even in natural sciences, you're going to if you're doing research in positivistic paradigm, you're going to agree on कि reality एक है. इसी तरह अगर social sciences है and you are doing research under positivistic paradigm, you have to agree कि reality वो एक ही है. And the goal of inquiry is to explain and predict. So as reality is one and there is no subjectivity in it, so all we are doing it, जो इंक्वायरी कर रहे हैं, जो रिसर्च कर रहे हैं, that is explaining of the phenomena. या फिर हम लोग predict कर रहे हैं कि how certain things will end up in what ways. So the whole point of positivist paradigm is what? कि knowledge, जो scientific knowledge है वो testable है. So we we have a theory, we go and see the world, and we form a theory of that, how that phenomena is working, and then we take that theory and we hypothesize. हम ऐसे testable hypothesis बनाते हैं which later on हम ऐसे hypothesis या ऐसी claims बनाते हैं which we can go and test and we can measure it. So theory leads to hypothesis, which in turn leads to discovery or study of the evidence. So when we can measure something, so that will give us the evidence कि whether जो हमने phenomena in the form of theory बनाया था, whether it works or not. So deductive logic is used to develop statement that can be tested. That is, the theory leads to hypothesis, hypothesis leads to discovery in terms of measurement, and that discovery will tell you whether जो आपने theory बनाई थी about the phenomena, whether that is true or not. And research should be observable with the human senses. Now, in positivist paradigm, it is considered that since reality is one, and that is one objective reality, the human senses and the reasoning, human reasoning alone is sufficient कि जो researcher है वो अपने objectives को achieve कर सके. That means कि researcher can observe that objective reality through his or her senses. And of course, one of the important point in positivist paradigm is that it encourages us to regard the world as rational, ordered place with a clearly defined past, present, and future. The word rational, the assumption behind it, behind positivist paradigm is that we assume करते हैं researcher के rational word, there's no subjectivity, it is ordered, or clearly defined past, present, and future exist करते हैं, so that the researcher can go and objectively study the phenomena which he is studying. So let's have a look कि ontological beliefs, epistemological beliefs, या ontological position या epistemological position and methodological position in positivist paradigm क्या है. So ontology under positivism is what? Okay, there is an objective reality that we can understand it through the laws by which it is governed. Again, they say कि reality क्या है? एक reality है. It is an objective reality. जो मैंने that means if I try to understand it, I'll understand it in the same manner as any other person or any other researcher in another part of the world will understand it. Epistemology क्या है? It employs a scientific discourse derived from epistemologies of positivism and realism. That is how we can find out, how can we know this reality, जो कि एक ही reality है, which is an objective reality. That is by observing. Okay, a researcher can go and he or she can observe. The way he can know the truth is by observing or by correspondence. Okay, he can know about the facts or facts corresponding कर रहे हैं whatever theory he or she has. So that is the epistemological standpoint in positivism paradigm. अच्छा, methodological belief या methodological standpoint in positivist paradigm क्या है कि the procedures or the way we're going to find out about that knowledge is through empirical studies. They are empirical through deduction, and the method that we're going to use is in positivistic paradigm are experiments. One of the ways, depending upon कि आप किस field में हो. अगर आप natural sciences में हैं तो it's most probably it's experimental research. But if you are in social science and your paradigm, research paradigm is that it's positivistic in nature, so it's not necessarily only experiments. You can the research methods that you can use can be questionnaire. क्योंकि in the end they give you one. They try to understand a social perspective in terms of objectivity. Okay? At the end of the day, they will have some quantification of the results through which agar I quantify it, it's going to be the same. The other person interprets that quantification, it's going to be the same. All right, so next is the interpretivistic or constructivist paradigm. So ये क्या paradigm करती है, that is on the other side of the spectrum, that it questions the assumption of positivist paradigm, and it says that कि ऐसा नहीं हो सकता कि you know this ordered rational view of the world जो कि एक positivistic paradigm में it does not calls for or takes into account the complexity of the social and cultural world we live in. Okay, तो इतना आसान नहीं है. Like positivists think that there is only one objective reality and the way you can know it is by observing it. It is not as simple as that. क्योंकि there are some phenomena that exist जिसके इतने complex होते हैं कि वो कुछ लोगों के लिए some reality is different, other लोगों के लिए reality different हो सकती है regarding those phenomena of interest, and they're complex in nature. Or we cannot know it by considering the objectivity of the reality. And it stresses the importance of symbolic subjective experience. And of course, it says that if the phenomena under consideration, it might have this characteristic that it is subjective depending upon how we experience it. And I gave you the example before that happiness does not have an objective reality. It has subjectivity in it. So अगर आप happiness को understand करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, so it is very complex and it is derived by the social and cultural world that people live in. And the जो constructivist paradigm है, normally it answers questions why rather than what, when, and how much. See, this positivist approach may the question that you're trying to answer is what, when, and how. Since that's what the objectivity is about. Okay, what happened, what the phenomena is, and you correspond to the facts. When it happened, you might have quantification for it, so it's objective. How much? Again, there's a quantification involved in it, and hence the objectivity. Lekin, when it comes to subjectivity, you try to answer questions something like revolve around the why rather than the what, when, and how much. So let's have a look कि interpretive जो constructivist paradigm है या interpretivistic paradigm है उसमें ontology क्या है. So the world and knowledge created by social and contextual understanding, so they are relativistic in nature. So ontology यानी कि जो reality exists करती है under this paradigm is कि there is subjective reality. There are multiple realities. There's some sense of relativity in it, यानी कि relativistic to the culture, relativistic to the norms, and it's not objective in nature. And the epistemology, and how can we know knowledge in such a reality that is subjective in nature? That is, in order to understand a unique person worldview, because that's what we're doing in the relativistic in relativistic reality, is by being part of the research and by being involved in it. So how we know it is, we try to find out a unique person point of view, जो कि शायद in our the culture that we're trying to find out is going to be different as compared to the culture that another researcher is going to find out is going to be totally different. और वो कैसे, how we can find out is, or how we can know it, how we can know it is by being part of that research. या उसमें involve होकर हम find out कर सकते हैं कि about that relativistic reality that we're researching. Or methodology, empirical. We can observe it by being involved in it. And the methods that we can use are qualitative in nature. That is, आप narrative interviews कर लें, observations कर लें, ethnographic studies कर लें, या case study, यानी कि the methodology will entail कि it is qualitative in nature, because there can be an objectivity, there can be a quantity. अगर quantity हो गई, so that means there's an objectivity involved in it. So we tend to focus on qualitative methods in interpretivistic paradigm, and that can be empirical in nature. अच्छा, critical जो research paradigm है, that focus on critique, and it involves concepts such as power, inequality, and social change. So see this, जो ये research paradigm है, वो it says कि जो it has its own notion of reality. For them, reality is an objective, reality isn't even relativistic. बल्कि वो the focus is on कि inequalities exist करती हैं, social biases exist करते हैं, and there's certain powers. Some people are powerful and some people are not. The phenomena under consideration revolves around who is in power, and where the inequality is, and how you can bring a researcher can bring social change. So the critical research paradigm tries to answer questions something like, okay, who gains in power? And an example could be, are profits generated from user-generated content exploitative? So if you're carrying research and critical research paradigm, so a research question or the inquiry could be, maybe okay, user-generated content on social media, you're trying to answer a question कि उससे जो profit generate होते हैं, कि are they exploitative, are they powerful entities who are actually जो इससे इस चीज को exploit कर रही हैं? Is there social bias as far as generation of the profit is regarding the user-generated content on social networks? या फिर you try to find out कि किसी भी phenomena के against who is being excluded, who is being included, and who is losing, who is gaining power. So all those questions, they come under the critical research paradigm. So have a look at what is reality when it comes to critical research paradigm. So reality, according to this paradigm, it does exist, लेकिन वो objective नहीं है, neither it is subjective, बल्कि that is created by social biases. यानी कि reality exist करती है, और वो subjectivity भी नहीं है, कि not in that sense कि you will think of this reality as in your own experiences, as per your own experiences. Rather, it is the direct result of these social biases. Reality exists, but it exists because and it has been created because of the power imbalance or the social biases which are present in the society. So how you can know this reality? अगर वो social biases से create हुई है, वो reality है, तो what are the ways that you can know, or knowledge कैसे आप gain कर सकें? So it is about, the way of knowing is through the standpoint or through a value. यानी कि आप the way you can know it is from the perspective जो कि आपकी value हो सकती है, standpoint हो सकता है. So understand oppressed view by uncovering the contradictory condition of action which are hidden or distorted by everyday understanding, and work to help change social conditions. So it could be a viewpoint जो कि political in nature हो सकता है, या फिर that can be social in nature, या कोई value हो सकती है जिसके through you can know that reality. Or methods जो आप methodology that you can use is you can analyze critically. You can use critical analysis, and the method that you can use is you can historically review. ये historical reviews कर सकते हैं, या आप critique कर सकते हैं. For example, I give you an example of a critical research paradigm, and one of the research that is being carried out in this paradigm. Okay, maybe if you're trying to find out, again, I think so. I gave you this example before. I'll give you over here again to understand what the critical research paradigm is. And that is, um, I give you an example. So cybersecurity research में, cybersecurity behavioral research में कौन से biases exist करते हैं when it comes to a particular scientific community. That means कि आप इसको इस research को you will undertake in critical research paradigm. Why? Because you're actually seeing the biases in it. It could be that most of the research is being carried out using experimental or positivistic approach, and hence the results that are that we can accrue or we can accumulate from cybersecurity behavioral research जो अभी at this moment of time हो रही है, that is that उसके अंदर जो powerful हैं, they are those scientists जो के positivistic paradigm को follow करते हैं, and hence most of the cybersecurity behavioral research is about quantification या about a reality that is objective in nature, which may not necessarily be true. क्योंकि in this case, in this scenario, जो qualitative research है, or the research that the subjectivity of the phenomena is not under consideration. Everybody, most of the researchers are trying to understand it from the objective point of view, but they're not trying to understand it from subjective point of view. So, this is one of the example where you can critically analyze a domain or a topic के उसके अंदर biases कहाँ से आ रहे हैं, and power imbalance कैसे है, is it in the favor of some of the scientists, or it is in the is it in the opposition of other way of thinking, other way of carrying out research. So just to have a snapshot of what we have done so far from the ontological perspective, these three we did, research paradigm we did: positivism, constructivistic point of view, and critical research paradigm. I'll come to that later on, but first have a look at ontology in all three research paradigm क्या है. So positivism के अंदर जो reality है वो ये है कि reality is out there, an absolute that can be discovered and measured with work. The absolute है, एक exist करती है. Constructivists believe that कि reality एक नहीं है, बल्कि it is made by people in social ways, and it is a product of mutual understanding. That is, they are looking at the reality and from the subjective terms. Critical जो paradigm है, वहाँ पे reality का क्या concept है, ontology क्या है, कि reality is a product of power relations. यानी कि they're trying to find out कि reality construct कैसे होती है due to power imbalances, and it is produced through these tensions. So this is how the ontological perspective is in these three research paradigms. अच्छा, one thing you should be knowing as a research student कि ये सिर्फ यही paradigm exist नहीं करती हैं जो चार मैंने आपको बताई हैं, and at this point of time we have done three, बल्कि it is a continuum. Ontology is a continuum. So is epistemology, and so is the methodology, and so is the method. So they actually are a spectrum जिसके अंदर जो main paradigm exist करती हैं वो मैंने आपको चार दिखाई हैं. There could be other paradigm. For example, post-positivism is such, जिसके अंदर जिनके ontological beliefs क्या हैं या वो reality को किस तरह ले सकते हैं this paradigm कि reality is out there, it is there, लेकिन there is a limit to our ability to accurately capture it. वो कहते हैं कि हम objectivity of the reality को मानते हैं, but we might not be able to capture it. You can see this positivistic believe that reality is out there and you can measure it, and exactly in the same way anybody will be able to measure it. But here they say that the post-positivism जो पैराडिम है वो समथिंग इन बिटवीन कहती है कि रियलिटी तो ठीक है लेकिन वी आर अनएबल टू कैप्चर इट, बट नेवरदलेस द रियलिटी इज वन. अच्छा, anyways, now coming to the epistemology of all of these three research paradigms जो कि अभी तक हमने किए हैं. That is, how do we know? In positivism, जो knower है, that is distinct from the phenomenon, and hence the way you know it is the reality, that is objective reality, is not being part of it, बल्कि you measure and analyze it by observing it. In the constructivistic, how do we know in the reality जो कि subjective in nature है. तो here the way of knowing is, वो believe करते हैं कि the knowledge, the way you can know knowledge is you have to co-construct it. That means you have to know that knowledge about engaging and by building and by sharing it, and that is, you have to become part of that reality in order to know it. इसी तरह critical जो paradigm है, how do we know that reality जो कि critical है, that is the outcome of the power imbalance. Okay, knowledge is political and values laden. We know through values and standpoints. So the way of knowing it, कोई सा भी एक value उठा लें and you try to understand the phenomena through that lens. ठीक है, या कोई भी standpoint या view उठा लें और उसके through आप जो है ना वो critically analyze करें the phenomena that you understand. Again, यहाँ पे थोड़ी सी मैं आपको example दूंगी वही वाली cyber security behavior research की where how you can find out. तो my standpoint या मेरा view क्या है, my view might be कि there is biases in terms of the way cybersecurity behavioral research is being carried out, और वो biases किस वजह से हैं, why those prejudices exist, is because जो positivistic paradigm है, that is being used too much, right? So I'll have the standpoint या जो view मेरा होगा to critically understand that knowledge or that reality, that is going to be the paradigm itself. कि मैंने paradigms उठा ली और मैंने देखा कौन सी paradigm imbalanced या balanced है. So in critical paradigm कोई value या standpoint view से हम जो है we can know the reality which we think is the product or the outcome of imbalances, power imbalances or social biases.